Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. Now, for over 100 years, basically ever since the 1920s, much of history has been framed as a struggle between two systems. One is a collection of the rotten democracies of the West, morally decaying and devoid of any higher values or ideas. The other one, meanwhile, gathers pure forces of virtue, faith, and belief in a better world. What's the other group called? Well, they have been called many names. At first, they were the Bolsheviks led by Lenin, then Mussolini's fascists, Hitler's Nazis, then Stalin's Soviet imperialists. Today, they have been replaced by the followers of Putin and his new Russian Empire.
Чисто бесы. По-другому и не скажешь. И мы должны понимать, игры кончились. А если мы имеем дело с слугами князя тьмы, если мы имеем дело с сатанинским началом, о каких переговорах и с кем мы говорим? Какие могут быть переговоры с сатаной? Они все время лгали. Это и есть основа западной сатанинской цивилизации – ложь. И мы хотим с ними о чем-то договориться, они снова обманут. Они всегда лгут. Посмотрите на мерзкие морды украинской власти. Сатанисты. Посмотрите на искаженные ненавистью, лишенные интеллекта морды британской, немецкой власти. Посмотрите на мелкого беса Макрона. Они же лжецы.
On the other hand, despite the years, the democracies can't seem to finally collapse under their supposed rot. Curiously enough, it's the allegedly vibrant revolutionaries that prove unable to make their 1,000-year empires last more than 10 or 20 years. And once they begin to crumble, they spare no effort pulling the wool over their subjects' eyes, regardless of how absurd these efforts get.
Моя собственная супруга много присылает военных свидетельств, роликов. Буквально Великим постом я посмотрел ролик про некого китайца, который участвовал в СВО, получил пулю в живот, развратившую все его внутренности. Он от этого умер и воскрес. Ему явился святитель Лука Крымский, его исцелил полностью, его внутренности были исцелены, и вот он принимает крещение, приезжают его родственники, вот они, фотографии, все уже в белых одеждах, новокрещенные адепты нашей православной церкви. И это же не единичное чудесное свидетельство, что воскресший Спаситель воинов, полагающих жизнь за други своя.
Go to war and receive salvation in return. We've seen this stuff like that before, but mostly in history textbooks. Apparently, Russia must still be caught in the Middle Ages somehow. Unfortunately, reports from the last remaining credible source like the Levada Center indicates that Russian propaganda is doing well and still has a sizable captive audience, including outside of Russian proper. Russian disinfo ops usually seek to spread fear and deploy false narratives about the Ukrainian war. In Poland, most of them focus on stoking up tensions between Ukrainians and Poles, rehashing old conflicts, often with new facts sprinkled in. Ethnic and national conflicts is the Russian troll's bread and butter. Propagandists blame refugees for inflation, domestic problems, overstrained healthcare, and underfunded social security. There's one phrase that will help you quickly identify disinformation operatives: the whole truth about. The very wording suggests being inducted into the realm of very few who share knowledge of a secret truth. So, what does a Russian troll typically look like? Well, they sit in front of their computers, wearing whatever these people do, and make precious little money writing online comments. A dead-end job to some extent, at least, but someone has to do it. And now, the facts. Social engineering is nothing but the art of pulling someone's leg. It's often used by security specialists to try and obtain login credentials to IT systems using unauthorized means, but it's been also widely adopted by disseminators of disinformation, which has been pouring into every corner of Poland and Europe ever since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Now, these fakes are well-paid experts in their fields who deliberately muddy the water. Remember the Internet Research Agency? That's an innocuous name for one of the biggest Russian troll farms in history, at least the biggest known to the West, because there are definitely more operating there away from prying eyes. Its monthly budget? Last known report said $1.25 million per month. All of that to spread confusion in the United States, ridicule Americans, and interfere with their elections. Earlier this year, high-ranking EU expert heard that now Russia spends around $1 billion on disinformation. After 2 years of research on disinformation, EU officials finally arrived at the conclusion that it's not used to help MEPs more amenable to Russia and China secure seats in the upcoming elections, but mostly to promote anti-Western narratives. It's a sprawling machine, well-oiled and well-financed, and there are no other people in the world that are fully immune to it. The only way to avoid this sinister charms is to avoid seeking shocking truth on some very poorly known social media accounts. Some time ago, Ukraine passed a new mobilization law, which lowered the age of mobilization from 27 to 25 years. A wave of call-up orders have been sent out, and persons eligible for military service must visit their respective draft offices within 60 days. Now, many people in Ukraine, especially young men, are trying to make light of the situation, just like the guy in the video ahead who presented another guy in downtown Kyiv with a choice: new iPhone or mystery box. What's in the box? Let's find out together.
Здорово. 100 гривен или секретный бокс?
Секретный бокс.
Хорошо. iPhone или секретный бокс?
Бокс.
Сука, нечего больше предложить. Ладно, открывай. Да.
Слушай, вот он, блядь. Опа, нахуй. Я надеюсь, это... Ебать.
Ну шо, молодой, поехали.
Блять, а мне нельзя.
Куда тебя, под Волчанск или под Авдеевку? Родной,
А можно?
куда?
Я...
Не, нельзя. Давай,
А может
поехали.
это кайф?
Не, поехали. Ты выбрал
может-
секретный бокс,
А
поехали.
можно поменять?
Не, нельзя.
А может это кайф?
Не, поехали.
Блядь.
Все, поехали. Давай, под Волчанск. Под Волчанск, все как положено.
Now, just to clarify, under Ukrainian law, draft tickets can only be handed to the recipient by persons wearing a uniform and holding the necessary credentials. The guy in the clip had neither, but that really shows you how tense the situation over the draft is getting over there. And to be honest, many Ukrainian men are trying to find solutions allowing them to evade the draft, and some of them are pretty absurd. For example, just this month, a 44-year-old man from the Cherkasy region, dressed in women's clothing and a wig, tried to illegally cross the Ukrainian-Romanian border. To complete the look, he was holding his sister's passport. And there's nothing we have against trying on new looks, really. To each their own. But after the Ukrainian mobilization law was amended, we have seen more men do it than ever before. Coincidence? Don't think so. Recently, Vladimir Solovyov posted on his Telegram channel that as part of their training, participants in the Russian president's Time of Heroes program will go on an Arctic expedition. Let's see more.
Первые 83 участника программы «Время героев» продолжают свое обучение в арктической экспедиции к Северному полюсу на атомном ледоколе «50 лет Победы».
Весь опыт, который я имею на гражданской, муниципальной службе и опыт службы на СВО, управления отрядом, я считаю, что это та возможность, которую нужно использовать, перенести весь этот опыт сейчас в управление государством, регионом, городом.
So what is this Time of Heroes program? Well, official sources are saying that its primary mission is to take servicemen who have spent time in the field in Ukraine and train them into highly qualified, competent managers for subsequent work in state and municipal authorities, as well as state-owned companies. You went to kill people in a sovereign country for money? Awesome! Now you're getting a cushy job from the state. That's Russia for you. But just a quick advice for Russians. I think it's not really a good time for Russians to be traveling by ship. Just ask the crews of the multiple ships that Ukraine managed to sink without even having a functioning fleet. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news update and commentary, please stay tuned to DPP World.